If you're tired of the standard business and marketing fundamentals, frameworks, and funnels, you need a little mischief. Get ready to turn up the volume on the CEO Mischief Maker podcast, where you access conversations with seasoned business owners who have smashed through mindset barriers, innovated the standard boring business and marketing playbooks, and executed future-paced strategies with bleeding-edge tools and tactics to micro-fail their way into massive success and growth. We are Mindset Impact Strategic Catalysts helping innovative entrepreneurs focus. We are CEO Mischief Makers. Ready to make a little mischief? Hey there, CEO Mischief Makers. Welcome back to the conversation. MKJ here, and I get to introduce you to an incredible human, Nick Cavuoto. Nick, how you doing?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me here today, MKJ. You are the bomb, and I'm so grateful for you. You're just always open-hearted. You give so freely. You also have the ability to receive, which is actually quite difficult for a lot of people. And I just love watching your journey. And I'm incredibly honored to be a part of it. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So I'm ready to have some fun today.
Yes, you are so sweet. I have worked on that. I got to be honest with you, that whole receiving thing, that took work, right? It took work to not, but yeah, this, I did bad, or that took work. And that was really one of my first eye-opening experiences. So thank you for seeing that in me. So tell us first, let's start, with who you are and what you do. And then we'll dive in from there.
Yeah, so it's funny when people ask me what I do, I say, well, I do a lot of things, but let me tell you about the people who I love to serve alongside of. And, my history in digital marketing, I was kind of one of the OGs in the digital marketing space. I ran my first Facebook ad in 2009. And that's truly where I started my professional career. But I was also a pastor, which is kind of interesting for a lot of folks, where I have been able to blend the spiritual side with the business side successfully for the last 15 years. And, my first stint was basically in event marketing. We took 1,000 people a weekend and grew it to 10,000 people a weekend in 5 years. And I always say I'm incredibly grateful for those early beginnings of, having people around me who believed in me enough to give me permission to, kind of tap into the tip of the spear and to be on the front lines of growing something very meaningful that I believe was noble, because truly my heart was to serve people on an individual level. And so I've always been a humanitarian at heart. And from there, I went into corporate and did a lot of things, managing a few $1 billion worth of products and generating a few $100 million in revenue for companies. And by the time I had my early 30s, I said, okay, now what do I want to do with my life? So the fast track of the career acceleration definitely happened. But, I spent a lot of time building companies, and now really my intentional focus is on building people. And I believe truly that I feel called, compelled, motivated with a mandate handwritten by God to lead this next generation of leaders who are rising up. And also, I've always had a unique ability. Most of my friends are 20 years older than me. And so I also think that when I'm able to create the tension between those two worlds and be a conduit between the next generation and the generation of wisdom and knowledge and deep understanding, I connect those worlds in a really unique way. And so I'm just a champion of people. I love to see people win. I'm a competitor at heart. And that's where I spend my time now is, speaking, leading, investing. And then, I choose to work with a client or two a year to do some things behind the scenes in their companies. And that's kind of what a day in the life looks like. I have a wonderful wife, Ashley, 4 beautiful kids. We just moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and God has been faithful to us. In addition, we have walked the line. We have a lot of battle scars to prove God's faithfulness, but also our grit to just get things across the line while trusting in the paradigms between both worlds. So that's Nick in a nutshell.
Yes. Okay. So, Mischief Makers listening, I met Nick because I was involved in another mastermind with Mike Kim, who people listening to this show will already know because he was already on the show. And in the background, going to Mike's event one of his events in Denver, I kept hearing this name, this Nick Cavuoto, but I didn't know who he was. I'd never seen him. I just kind of heard his name from Mike and from Lauren Johnson and from all these people. And I'm like, who is this guy? And then all of a sudden found you on, through something Mike shared or something. And so now I'm in two masterminds. Absolutely grateful to be in both. I'm in Mike's still. I'm loving every minute of it. And now I was able to join you. And it's, I have to be honest. I really feel like, we all think of a ladder to success. We think of whatever success means to you, but I look at it as my life's purpose. Okay, what I'm here to do, and I feel very, very aligned with what you're talking about. I'm here to help people become the best versions of themselves they can become right now, because that continues to change. And in that ladder, I kind of leap sideways and up, and there was one leap going to Mike Kim and being exposed to him and just absorbing everything he has. And now I've kind of leapt beyond that and to the next level for me into your world. And it's been such an amazing ride. I'm so grateful to be here. So I've got to cover mindset, because that took you kind of took us through a real quick synopsis of what you do, but you're talking pastor to marketing to corporate to investing to all kinds of things. What do you think is one of the most important mindset shifts you can remember experiencing? What was it, and how did it actually impact your life to allow you to become who you want to become?
Yeah, I'm thinking there's actually three, and I'm going to go through them in chronological order. When I was 12 years old, I remember having this kind of supernatural moment. I don't know any other way to describe it. So this is like just everybody's just going to get it hot off the press as if we were having a cup of coffee or a beer. I'm just going to tell you how it is. When I was 12 years old, I kind of had this conversation with God of where I just felt this thing in my gut of where it was like, it doesn't matter what I do, like I'll be successful. So I've always played the game knowing that at the end of the game, the scoreboard is that I won. So it doesn't require the same amount of friction, tension, doubt, uncertainty. Don't get me wrong, there's moments that have been incredibly hard, but it's minutes and moments. It's not like, months and months and months and milestones of just going like, when am I going to ever get out of this? There's just seasons. But at the end of the day, I have this unique promise within myself that it doesn't matter how hard. It doesn't matter if I'm on the mountaintop and I'm winning and I'm like up by 30, and then I see, the scoreboard going the other way. I still know what the end of the game is. And that was a huge deposit that I would say was more supernatural than practical, but I live in the tension of the ethereal and the practical. That's what I do on a daily basis. So both have equal value. They just come from different angles or different access points. So that was the first one, which was incredibly important. And when you've already know that you've won, your actions and your perceived failures and your perceived success, they all blend into this unique reality of just like living life and taking it one day at a time. The second thing I would say that was really big, the second mindset shift, was when I fell out of college for the second time when I was 19. And I just remember calling my dad and going like, I need to come home. Like, this is just not working for me. I have neurodiversity, I'm ADD, ADHD, I have the whole alphabet after my name, and you'll find something in there. As far as with something I've been, blessed with is the way that I look at it, because those are all my unique superpowers on paper. But it's one of those things where it just was really tough for me to figure out those years between, 17 to 19. When I was just really stepping into my own. And now I've learned as part of my identity center in human design is that I have an open identity center, which is the unique ability to not deeply attach to any unique identity, that I have to be this type of way, which is why my options are always like Baskin Robbins. I'm like, no, there's a lot of things I can do, right? I started the conversation that way. Like, it's just very true to the nature of who I am, and I've accepted it. So it's pretty fascinating. And when I called my dad and said I need to come home, the first thing that he told me to do was to serve and to just go help out and volunteer. Because I guess it's in our deepest moments of uncertainty, but also where we assume that we have nothing to offer, there's always something to offer. And I think there's probably somebody who needs to hear this today. Like, your presence is enough. You being present with your family, with your coworkers, with your parents, with your kids. I mean, I can go 100 angles. Your presence is enough. And I learned that mindset shift of being present at 19 years old, which was 16 years ago now, going like, this is really valuable, because when you're present, you can be promoted. And that's something that like was a game changer. I had more responsibility, at 21, managing an 8-figure budget. And I was an intern for 2 years before that. But it's the weight of responsibility that provided a sense of meaning to me. And I understood the value of service first. And when you serve, you have the opportunity to be positioned in the right place. Then you have the opportunity to be promoted based on your level of presence. My goal was always to be the most trusted person in the room, to overhear things and solve them without anyone even knowing. It just seemed like high integrity to me that if you're working with all stars, and I worked for a public figure in my earliest days of getting started in ministry, I just solved problems. And it came from a place of overhearing a conversation that I was very present and a part of, but they just didn't assume that I'm taking notes on what to do when they're having a simple conversation. And then everything, I come back and it's all done, and they're like, who are you? I'm present is who I am. All right. And that was really valuable. And the last one that I'll share, and then we'll jam through these, but the last one was really focused, I think, on the knowing of this too shall pass. As time continued on for me, like I mentioned early on, the battle scars to prove it. Entrepreneurship has been the most challenging and rewarding experience of my life. And I'm entering into, I started in 2015, so I'm entering into my 7th year, this September, of entrepreneurship being kind of my daily focus. And it has been, there have been moments of grabbing the hand of someone who I care about, coach, mentor, my wife, my kids, running through the gates of hell, hoping to get out to the other side. And there have been elated moments on cloud 9 would be an understatement, of being able to show up in the world and do something great, while honestly incredibly aligned to my spirit, which is truth, honesty, and integrity, and removing the red light emotions of comparison, criticism, and judgment. I just don't operate at that frequency. And so a lot of that release, this too shall pass. Hard moments, good moments. Life is, man, like they have that one song, Life is a Highway. That is true. Life's a journey, and it's one to be embraced and loved. So those are my 3 key moments of life where I can say for sure that mindset was incredibly powerful in my transformation.
Yes. And there are so many pieces of that we could unpack, but I really want to take kind of, because this is like the 30,000 foot level. And so if there's someone out there struggling with some of this right now, number one, be open. I mean, that openness, again, I feel so aligned with you. I feel like a jack of all trades most of the time. And when I finally focused on one thing and took that one thing, because I can catch on really quickly, when I did that, that's what catapulted me forward, instead of trying to dabble in all of them. And which obviously you did digital marketing, you did corporate, you do client stuff, right? So you do that at certain times. It doesn't mean you don't tap into all those other talents or skills or abilities, but when you focus on one at a time, that's when you really move and jump yourself forward. And then the second thing I've got to say, you talk about going through the gates of hell and being really beyond cloud 9. And those swings, really the only way you can feel above cloud 9 is because you've felt the gates of hell.
Yo, facts.
Right?
Very true. The contrast is rather extreme. Yeah.
Yes.
That's very true.
Yes. And so most of us avoid those things and really don't want to go. So we will almost do anything to avoid feeling those difficult times. But because you were so open to them, not necessarily you wanted to go through them, but you were open and you realized, I got this. At 12, I realized I'm going to win. And I believe that, and I'm committing to that. So this is just a piece of the puzzle that has to be fitted into place. It's not like the end of the world, right? So that is
Exactly.
so incredible to have that experience at 12, because I'll tell you, I feel the same way, but I've gotten stuck. I've gotten stuck a lot of times through this journey of, wherever we are on that continuum of happiness, sadness, things going great, things going terrible. And I've hit places where I was stuck in that place for longer than I should have been. So how did
Yes.
you not let that happen? How did you ride that wave and just let go and not get stuck?
Well, I'm about to drop like an atom bomb quote here that everyone needs to write down. I think that it's easy to see the truth when you're not in the tension of it. It's easy to see the truth when you're not living in the tension of it. That's the reality that I experienced, which was there were moments and minutes that were incredibly hard. But truth is the highest vibrational frequency that you can operate at. It moves the fastest, truth. That's why I always say my values are instilled in truth, honesty, and integrity. And the opposing force, or the dark side, or the shadow, whatever someone wants to describe it as, red light emotions, or where we get hung up in our feelings, is typically in comparison, criticism, and judgment. Yes. CCJ, comparison, criticism, judgment. So when you're living in tension of the comparison, criticism, and judgment, that's tension. That is dis-ease. Your body is at dis-ease. You are stressed. You're feeling the pressure. You're feeling the tension. That's when you lose sight of what? The number one value on the other side, which is truth.
Yes.
So the way that I ended up figuring it out was after 80 therapy sessions and meeting with a Taoist monk back in February of this year. I would say it's a 2-hour conversation that changed my life, of where he gave me that formula of life and told me to stop recounting the old story, because the old story I didn't even know, but the 8-year-old me was tricking the 35-year-old me. And it was saying, well, hey, there's these unfortunate things that have happened, and we get stuck. When we get stuck, we're plateaued. Stuck is stuck between truth and ego, spirit and ego. And that's that chasm of where we feel like we're between two stones. Well, you are. That's just what I learned was, primarily if I want to release the criticism, comparison, and judgment, instead of saying, I feel, which is for me, old story, I started saying, I choose, I think, or I believe. And I took ownership of that experience, which removed the tension, because I wasn't blaming and shaming, whether it was myself or someone else. And I received ownership of my experience. And I said, what is the truth? The truth is, I feel like being angry right now. I feel like losing $1 million in 2 days during COVID was unjust. I don't like that happened. And that sucks. And I'm choosing to be angry and to fold my arms, i.e. the 8, 6, 5-year-old version of me, and I'm not going to do it. And I'm frustrated and I feel it's unfair, so I'm going to sit in the sidelines. And the minute that there was acceptance and acknowledgement and awareness, I could take personal responsibility and go like, well, do I still want to feel that way, or do I want to do something different? What is the benefit of that? Well, the benefit is I don't have to do anything, so I don't have to be in pain again. Okay, great. Well, what's the benefit of that? Nothing. Let me give myself a big hug and go like, dude, it's okay. It's all good. This happens. It's life. But I'm here. We got this. Remember, we're going to win. Oh yeah, that's right. We got this. Let's roll. And that's how I started making peace with my past, but also being present with myself. Because that emotion from the 5, 6, 7, 8 could show up at 34, but the lack of presence is what created that recounting of that story over and over again anyway. Big hug, big embrace. And I was able to release it.
Hallelujah. Yes. Okay. Because that's, I agree 100%. And, we also avoid, I can say this for myself, we also avoid just feeling that, just acknowledging that. $1 million in 2 days. I mean, there's always something worse. I'm sorry. I'm talking, I was all boohoo because I lost, I was 60 grand in debt after the 2008. I mean, that's nothing, right? So, but we don't want to acknowledge that. We don't want to look at that and go, what's my part in that? What could I have changed? What can I change the next time I'm faced with similar situations? Allow us to just whether you want to use the word wallow or feel or whatever, because it is strong emotion. It is like, crap, how the heck did this happen and why and all that stuff. I agree. And so the faster we can just feel it, sit, let it wash over us, we're not going to die because of it. Hopefully, obviously, that's our choice, right? We're not, nothing, nobody's dying. Nobody's, I used to drive an ambulance. I know what that looks like. This is not that. Okay. We are not in emergency situations like that where it's life and death. This is business. Okay. So we can choose to just feel it, let it wash over us. And then, yeah, big hug. Let's go. Wow. That was, yes, an atomic bomb. So what's next for Nick? What is the next mindset shift? I know you're working with some incredible people. I know you're having some incredible adventures, but what mindset shift are you facing now that you have to then use to get to the next level?
Yeah, it's honestly centralized in a operating system that's more on energy, frequency, vibration than it is on business tactics solutions, if that makes sense. I'll try to explain it better. Some of the mentors who I've been recently connected with, for example, David Meltzer, who basically is the real life Jerry Maguire. They made the movie off of the Lee Steinberg sports agency and entertainment agency, which he was the number one sports agent on the planet. Ran the largest sports agency and entertainment company in the world. And he's a mentor of mine now, which I'm incredibly grateful for. And I think in looking at how that happened, how that connection point happened, I could not have strategized that intentionally if I tried to. So the receiving moments that are happening in my life now are semi-magical. They're not as scalable as building a machine and then just turning the key and driving. There are elements of that reality, like your emotional state, and if you are telling the truth consistently, and if you are living in integrity, and if you are being honest with reality of what you may be experiencing, if you're staying out of criticism, comparison, and judgment. The way that he says it is your frequency is your neighborhood. Frequency is the tuning fork. It's the ability to dial into the same radio station with no static. When you operate at that level, all of a sudden there's these kind of synchronistic, surprising, how the heck did that happen? I couldn't have strategized it if I tried. It's an open-handedness of life. And I tested the theory. This is crazy. I tested it intentionally this spring of when I started to sense this shift. I moved my family across the country from Denver, Colorado to Nashville. We made a decision, and less than a month later, we were gone. So I tested it to go like, all right, I'm going to follow the golden thread of life. And I did. Let me just kind of pull this through. It makes sense to keep saying yes instead of saying no. It didn't practically make a ton of sense. It wasn't perfect timing. It was seed and soil and potential. My kids are my seed, right? They are going to be placed in soil that is going to either, turn a wonderful seed into this beautiful flower or a harvest for growth, or it's going to fall in rocky soil or the wrong place and it's going to wither, and it has the potential to lose its potential and die. So I'm actually starting to get to the place of where I'm like, wow, it's wildly uncomfortable to allow your operating system to be energetic pretty much entirely, but I tested it and it worked. So then I said, okay, I'm going to go again. I'm going to fire all of my clients. I'm going to literally go to zero on purpose. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And it's funny because that was my intention. That was my intuition. So I did it, except for I held on to one. I'm like, all right, but I'm just going to leave this one. And then it was like, at the end of the month, they're like, yo, we've crushed it. We've done amazing. I don't really know what I want to do in this next chapter of my life. And if we keep scaling this, then I'm actually going to potentially perpetuate the thing that I don't want to do. I mean, when do you get repositioned or let go out of a contract you've been with for years? But at the same time, the wild thing was the transformation they were feeling. They were like, I can't continue to perpetuate the old. My intention was so far ahead of me that I already had a game plan knowing, of course, that I would try to hold on to something. When you're in the desert, don't bring those old habits into the future of the promise that you have for your life. That's what a lot of us do. We build these like strong arms of like habits that may be non-beneficial, or maybe, they really don't serve us. I think it's your ability, it's your tolerance for tension between the desert and the promised land that determines your potential for growth. There was a lot of tension, but I had like one little thing in my pocket where I'm like, I'm just going to hang on to this little thing right here. And it was like, no, not going to happen. And so then I like legit went to zero, and I was like, damn it. All right. Can't outsmart the universe. Can't outsmart God. This is what I asked for. I'm getting what I asked for. I sent a clear message. Now what? And literally from even all three of those clients, and one client over doubled the revenue in 3 weeks after I made that decision. More aligned, the most aligned client that I've had in a working, like, professional capacity, where I'm like, really, I'm a fractional CMO for their company. And that happened in 3 weeks. And then from there, what happened? Oh, well, I bet hard and made commitments when I didn't even know how I was going to make it work. I mean, I got 4 kids, a lot going on, I'm investing in multiple businesses. I mean, there's so much happening. And I'm like, I'm just going to overcommit. Yep, I'll find a way and I'll be there. Yep, I'll find a way and I'll be there. So I've been on a TV show. I've gone to, a bunch of stuff with my mentor. We went to SoFi Stadium. None of these opportunities without great daring risk in something that intuitively made sense, but practically didn't. The greatest opportunities, what I truly believe, this is literally the opening chapter to the greatest story in my life that will be told, is happening from 35 to 45. And that's happening right, literally smack in the middle of this conversation. We are in the thick of that transition. None of that would have happened without daring, without risking everything, without thanking my future self for taking the thing away that was in my pocket and going into the promise that actually didn't serve me. What a blessing. It's a blessing to lose a $20,000 a month client. It was a blessing. Yeah. Most people wouldn't say that. It's like, well, then you fall flat at zero. I'm like, how many times I've been flat at zero?
Yes.
A lot. And what's funny? I always solve it in a better modality, in a better way, with a better solution for the future. It's very true. As long as you don't give up, I truly believe you have the opportunity to give in to the things that are actually right for you. And where there's not a void, there's not a need. And now I'm sitting here going like, I'll double my revenue in 90 days from a boring business that someone else is going to run. Everything that I need is already taken care of, and it has been. What else is required besides my surrender to the experiment of life, just rather more intuitively than intellectually or using a calculator? I'm using a compass.
Yes. Okay. And I'm going to thank you for that, first off, because that was an incredible outline of where you're headed. And I'm going to challenge that by saying that I really think the greatest section of your life is not 35 to 45. It is going to be all the way through until you leave this earth. Each decade, each year, each moment is only going to compound and impact more people and impact your family, who can also impact more people, all the way through until you leave this world. And it's just going to be bigger and better every single moment. And I'm just honored to see it.
I receive it. That's incredible. And I thank you for that reflection.
Okay, hold on. If your mindset was shifted, you were inspired to innovate, and you were spurred into action, don't just move on with your day. Focus, my friend, and take a few minutes to visit CEOmischiefmaker.com to learn more about the value that was shared with you today. Please act now and create some CEO mischief of your own.